How's it going, guys? Today we are going to be talking about, casually, the Nintendo 64. We've been doing some of these videos where we talked about the Sony PlayStation, then we talked about the Analog NT. So yeah, this is just going to be a casual discussion and our memories of the system. Did you have this system, and when did you get it?
I did. I got the N64 a year after it came out.
Okay.
So I had gotten the original PlayStation, and then, you know, GoldenEye became a super popular game, and a lot of people were playing GoldenEye, were playing this, which is definitely, like, if you're talking about games that define the N64, I think that GoldenEye is right there, near the top of the list. And it's interesting because Nintendo consoles aren't really known for their shooters, but
GoldenEye, though.
GoldenEye was very much like Halo was for the Xbox, a title that got people onto the system.
Mm-hmm.
And it was enabled because you could see on the system, this system has 4 controller ports built in. Before the N64, consoles had multi-taps. They had the ability to have more controllers, but it was more of like a niche thing. Versus the N64, the system was purpose built to have 4 players. So the fact that you could get 4 players together, play GoldenEye, play a shooter on one TV, was what made me want to buy the system.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point to bring that up, because prior to that, you had to buy a multi-tap.
And they weren't going to design games to that because not everybody had it.
Because what other systems really had the 4 controllers in the front? I think Dreamcast had it. But, you know, us growing up with, like, NES and stuff like that, and Super Nintendo, you know, it was 2. So to actually be able to play with 4 people was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we love about Bomberman, that Saturn Bomberman, is the idea of getting together so many people in a room to play it. So the N64, it came with that. And I would say the other big game which people played with 4 people was Super Mario Kart, or Mario Kart 64, I should say. Mario Kart 64 was a great game to get together, play with friends. To this day, people still go back and play the battle mode. You know, a lot of times when I get together and I hang out with people still have N64s, and like that, it's a game that people still play to this day. It's kind of like how with GameCube, people are still playing Smash Brothers Melee.
Right.
People are still playing Mario Kart 64 because those, like the block fort and all the battle modes, it was so well done that I don't know that they ever did that as well since then. Mario Kart 8's a good game, but when that first came out, the battle mode wasn't very good. So to go back and play battle mode, Mario Kart 64 was really where it's at. And also the fact that you can do it with 4 people. My favorite Mario Kart is still the Super Nintendo game, but that's only 2 people. That is one thing that definitely the N64 has over that, is that you can play with more people.
And there was, you know, they didn't just stop with Mario Kart. I saw you had in your hand too. There was like Diddy Kong Racing, which is very similar to it. I think N64 was the first system that kind of showed what modern Nintendo was going to be. Because it has the Mario parties, it has the Smash Brothers, it has Star Fox, it has...
That's actually a really good point. It's so,
all the things.
It's like, so not the NES or Super Nintendo. Yeah. It's really its own thing. And after that, the GameCube and the Wii and everything, it really followed in the footsteps of the Nintendo 64. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, if you wanted to see Nintendo's philosophy developing into the modern Nintendo, and that's both for good and for bad, because the N64 also marks the beginning of Nintendo's decline in dominance. And really, you look at before the N64, a lot of people said, "Oh, I'm going to go play Nintendo," and they meant video games.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
which is funny. I'm old enough to remember when it was, "I'm going to go play Atari," which meant video games, and then that turned into Nintendo.
Right, and you know that hasn't happened since.
Nope.
Like, PlayStation's huge. I mean, PlayStation was huge. PlayStation, in terms of sales, PlayStation beat N64. That is a true statement. But it didn't capture the mind share of the people.
I don't think anybody ever really said, though, back in the day, "I'm going to go play PlayStation," which meant video games.
Yeah. It was, PlayStation is this thing.
Yeah.
The N64 was something very different.
Yeah.
And you saw it in the games, and it was a matter of a format. I think the biggest distinguishing factor between the PlayStation and the N64 was format. This is a 64-bit system. It has a discrete GPU, which was called the Reality coprocessor, that was on this. I think the CPU runs at 97 something megahertz and the GPU runs at 60 something. But the big thing about it is both of those chips beat the pants off of what's in the PlayStation. This system had 4.5 meg of RAM. If you installed the expansion chip that's on here...
That was for games like Majora's Mask. Certain games needed extra power to play them.
This brought it up to 8 meg of RAM. 8 meg of RAM is far more than is on the PlayStation.
Okay. That's interesting. I actually thought that this was a less powerful system.
No, it's far more powerful.
Oh, really?
It's like night and day more powerful. But it's limited by the fact that it has cartridges. So...
Well, there was the N64 disk drive, but that was very rare, and I believe it was released in Japan only, so we didn't get it here.
Yeah, the 64DD, it plugged in to the bottom here to this port right here, and it used disk drive games, and I guess the biggest games for that were the F-Zero construction set.
Well, the one that everybody always tells me about that I should play is the Mario Paint that was exclusive to the disk drive.
Oh, you should play that.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah, that's definitely for you.
Now I have to go buy that before we put this video out.
Right, but the F-Zero construction set was a big one. You could save your tracks to the disc, which was pretty cool. But honestly, the 64DD was too little too late. What I remember is before I got into the N64, before I got into the great games that are on the system like GoldenEye, Mario 64, all of that, I remember seeing the tech demo using the Final Fantasy IV characters, the Squaresoft tech demo they did at E3. And it had, Cecil and Kane and all of them in 3D. And thinking, wow, Squaresoft's going to make all these awesome RPGs for the Ultra 64. Yeah. And remember, it had like the Ultra
originally,
on the thing. It was like gray and all that. But that didn't happen.
I wonder if Ultra was going to make games for the Ultra 64.
Yeah, right? I think that was the biggest divorce that happened, and the biggest thing that harmed the N64 was probably the loss of Square Enix as a developer for it.
You mentioned that using cartridges was sort of one of the problems, and PlayStation had discs and all that. What I can say about the cartridges is, you remember the NES and blowing in it and getting it in and out. This is one of the nicest systems where you can put the game in easily and you can pop it out easily. Because a lot of times when I use the NES top loader or the regular front loader NES, it's a kind of a pain in the ass to get the cartridges out. And sometimes they really stick in there. They're hard to get out. I usually have, because a lot of times we're filming videos and we have one hand holding the camera and the other one, but you can't really do that. A lot of times you have to put your hand on the system to pop the game out. Where this system, you can do it one-handed, which is really nice. And it's I tend to find that these games work a lot better. Usually when I put in an N64 game, it doesn't seem to have the dust problems that the NES had. Not to say that it doesn't, but it's not as bad. And I don't know why that is exactly.
You don't have to clean these N64 games nearly as much as you have to clean the NES, especially, and the Super Nintendo as well. And even then, this top loading mechanism is much better.
It really is.
Than the one in the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. So you notice, I have the Jungle Green system. They came out with all different colors of the console and all different colors of the controller. Now we have a regular controller.
So the regular system was like the blackish gray charcoal color.
Yeah.
And it came with this controller, and I think the controller of the N64 is one of the most interesting controllers in gaming, because you look at this and you're like, how am I going to hold this? And the way that it was typically held, the most common way it was held was with the left hand on the centerpiece like this with the thumbstick. And
because people who were used to playing NES or Super Nintendo, if I can see that for 1 second, or would hold it like that, because the D-pad's over here and the buttons are over here, so you would think. But yeah, usually you're supposed to have your hand in the middle, and I think for a lot of people playing the system for the first time, it's an awkward thing to get used to. And Another thing about the thing is there's a Z trigger on the bottom, so this is a very different controller. The memory pack and the rumble pack was something that you put into the controller itself, where the other systems like PlayStation, you would put the memory card into the system. So it was very different than everything else.
The memory card for the N64 is like the worst accessory ever, because most games didn't support it. Most games still saved on the cartridge. There's very few games that use a memory card, but the Rumble Pack was great.
Rumble Pack was cool.
And the Rumble Pack was packaged with Star Fox, right?
So yeah, Star Fox 64 was a great game, but we'll get into talking about games in a minute. I want to say thank you to the person who sent me this, because they actually gave me an HDMI modded N64, so thank you for the donation. It's really cool, and it's really cool to be able to see these games with such clarity, because playing them on a modern TV nowadays, it's kind of like what they did with the NES Classic, where they're putting the games into HD and making them look nice. So to be able to see N64 games like that is nice. I would think that following up from the SNES Classic, I would imagine next year they're probably going to be doing the N64 Classic, which I don't think anybody's really been talking about yet.
Here's the thing. If they do an N64 Classic, and if it has as many games as the NES Classic, or even as many games as the SNES Classic, it'll have like all the good games. It'll make Mario 64, Star Fox, Smash Brothers, you can do this console in 30 games.
So somebody sent me a list. One of the bad things about the system, when we've talked about it before, is that the N labels, there are no N labels. So a lot of people print up N labels. And again, thanks for this donation too, by the way. So when you have these on your shelf, if you don't have N labels, you can't tell what the game is. Being that I have basically all the games in front of me, literally this is all of the games on the Nintendo 64. In comparison to the NES and other systems, there was not a lot of games on the system in comparison to those. And out of these games, a lot of them are bad. I mean, you have your Superman 64, right. I could list all the bad games, but I think Ryan's right. Because there's less games for the entire system, that kind of means there's less good games overall in comparison to NES, because NES had something 850 games, so there's more good games because there was more games for the system. Same thing for Super Nintendo, same thing for Sega Genesis. So let's talk about the games. Do you have some favorites off the top of your head? Yeah,
I mean, obviously the Zeldas are, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask are groundbreaking games. Mario 64 revolutionized the platformer genre for 3D and is still one of the best 3D platformers that is out there. The Smash Brothers, whether it's an esport or just something you do with your friends, Smash Brothers 64 is still played competitively by people. F-Zero, we don't have enough F-Zero in our lives.
Well, there was F-Zero. There was F-Zero X.
F-Zero X is really good.
I had a hard time with this game. There's a lot of moments in this game where you're trying to go around like a cylinder, and a lot of times you fall off and stuff like that. I think this is a pretty good game, but I preferred the Super Nintendo version over the N64 version.
I can see that.
So Super Smash Brothers was one of the games I probably played the most. It's one of my favorite Smash Brothers. This or Melee, I think. And I don't really need to say more, right? Smash Brothers. Star Fox 64 is a great game. Super Mario 64, obviously. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, I think, was a launch title for...
Shadows of the Empire was the launch title.
Oh, was that the launch title? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind. So Shadows of the Empire was the launch title. But regardless, I guess this came out later. This is the one I really liked.
It's better than Shadows. Shadows is like a really clunky 3D.
Yeah, James and I played it, and we went through and we played the whole game. And this game, I think, is way better. And I also remember Rogue Squadron on GameCube. I also really like that, too. But this game's great.
Have you ever played Dark Forces?
I don't think so.
For PC? The Star Wars game?
Is that like that?
No, it's like Doom. Okay. I think you would really like it because it's a 3D shooter where, it doesn't have the vertical aiming. And
I didn't play a lot of the Star Wars PC games because I didn't have a PC for a very long time, which you know.
But it's of a similar era, so, it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I should check that out. Now, another game that has to be mentioned is really Mario Party because, again, getting together with your friends and playing Mario Kart, GoldenEye, and I think the other big one for people that didn't want to play a racer or a shooter would play Mario Party. And I I know you're not the biggest fan of the game, right?
I don't like Mario Party games.
He's not big into Mario Party.
Yeah.
I do like Mario Party. I don't like some of the more modern Mario Parties because I think they've ruined the game in recent days. But back when it was Mario Party 2, and the first few for GameCube, like 5, 6, 7, I think those are all good games to get together with your friends, have a few beers, and play the game. I liked being able to move around the board and choose which direction you want to go, because it was like playing a board game or something. I'm going to go right, he's going to go left, and we'll see what happens. Where in the modern games, they put you all in one cart,
right,
and that moves around. So I think that kind of destroyed the game for me. That, and also in combination with that, they started releasing other gimmicks. Like they started releasing like a microphone where you would shout into the microphone and you'd be like, apple, banana, banana, apple, and like really lame stuff like that. Where back with this generation, it was more about the gameplay itself. Like maybe you had to hit something really quick, or you had to spin something really quick. So a lot of times you'd have to get really good at doing this kind of stuff, or the fast tapping and stuff like that. And that was very competitive. You know, going back and forth and you're trying to tap the button as fast as you can and things like that. It was a very competitive game. It was really fun and still great games. I hope that they release one for the Switch and go back to the older formula, because I think it was better.
I wanted to mention that these analog sticks wear out. There's nothing you can do about it. They're going to go.
They do.
There are many, many replacements online. Probably your local video game store replaces these, but they just get gunk in them and then they fail. But they're easily replaced. You could probably even buy the parts online and do it yourself. Mm-hmm. So watch out for that.
Which, if you're playing certain games and you're getting rough with that analog stick, you're definitely going to need to have that replaced.
Also, it doesn't have, modern analog sticks have the push button. When you push down,
the click. Yeah.
It doesn't have the click.
I always have this conversation with James. He says he was super excited. He was super hyped for the N64 and all that. Me, I was more still playing like NES and Super Nintendo. I wasn't really into the big hype for it. So Christmas came along and I got the Nintendo 64 and I opened it up and I had no idea. I didn't ask for it or anything. And I was like, oh, the N64, that's cool. I popped it in. I got Mario Kart. I was playing that. I thought it was cool. But it wasn't something that I was like dying to have, where I know a lot of people were. The game that changed my tune really for the system was actually this, because when Zelda came out, Zelda had been my favorite franchise, and I went to Toys R Us since I owned the system, and I pre-ordered it. And when you pre-ordered the game and you got it, you got the collector's edition, which has this sort of cool cover. I played this game, I loved it, and this is the game that made me love the N64. But that's not to say that there aren't other good games for the system. Another one that people never talk about that I actually really like, Space Invaders. And me, I like the old games, like that. Space Invaders 64 is a really good game. Check it out. And there's a lot of games for the system. There's like racing games, and there's a game called Hydro Thunder, which is a game where you go around in a boat. It's
what
like
about
racing.
Wave Race?
There's Wave Race.
That's good.
There's so many games that get overlooked that are actually pretty good for the system. Where people usually only talk about Mario, Smash Brothers, and those big games.
Don't forget Turok and Turok 2. The two first-person shooter dinosaur games.
Yeah.
They're both pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're out there. The cross-platform game, actually, you have it here. So if you want to play Shadow Man, play it on Dreamcast.
Okay, yeah.
The Dreamcast version is way better.
It seems to be it happens a lot of times when PlayStation or Dreamcast had better versions of games than the N64, because a lot of times on PlayStation you would get the full cutscenes, where on N64 a lot of times it would just be text.
Yeah, don't get me started about Tony Hawk on N64 and missing audio tracks and things. That's rough. But Shadow Man is a game where you're a guy going through like the different levels of hell. And I think it's pretty cool, but play it on Dreamcast. It's way better.
We could pop out a couple bad games now.
Well, no, before we get into bad games, another game I wanted to talk about was Nightmare Creatures.
Okay.
This is like a beat 'em up where you have an adrenaline gauge. So when you're not fighting, the adrenaline goes down. So you're always
that actually sounds pretty cool.
You're always trying to fight.
Okay.
And it's got like the old timey like Victorian type.
Is it like
look to it.
side-scrolling beat 'em up or like?
It's 3D.
It's 3D.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't played it.
So look out for this one.
You know what? I don't actually have it here, but one of the games I wanted to mention that I also really like is Gauntlet Legends. You ever play that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's a fun game to play with four. I think it's 4 people, and I used to go through that. I liked it better than the original Gauntlet. The original Gauntlet's like really tough. Good luck beating that game. You know, that's
we
really
used to
hard.
own the Gauntlet Legends arcade, the 4-player.
Yeah.
Like the full arcade.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but we sold it.
Another game that I like that I don't have here was actually Spider-Man for N64. I think it came in a red cart, and I thought that was a pretty good Spider-Man.
That's one where you
game.
could just like web in the air.
Yeah,
and just go
it wasn't.
forever.
I mean, it wasn't the best. The one on,
Yeah.
on PlayStation 2 was a lot better, but I like the N64 one.
There's a game I want to talk about here, Daikatana.
Yeah.
So like this game, you gotta watch when you're making games. The games have hype because this game was like, I think the slogan for this was like, John Romero wants to make you his bitch. Like it was like really like edgy marketing and like super like this is gonna be like the second coming. And it was really the second coming of shit because it was just not good.
Yeah, no, that game's awesome.
This game is
I played that
awful.
once with James for James and Mike video, and we both thought it was absolutely terrible.
Man, this game looks like you found it in like a Soviet bunker or something. It's all worn out.
Yeah, somebody tried to blow it up. I think it might have been me.
That's what happened.
Here's Pilot Wings 64 was a fun game. I love Pilot Wings on Super Nintendo, but the follow-up Pilot Wings 64 is a lot of fun. This one has the thing where you can shoot yourself out of a cannon and try to hit something from really far away. It's super fun. I would say I would recommend this game. I think it's pretty cool.
If you want a fighter on the N64, get Killer Instinct Gold.
Castlevania on N64, that was, for me, I bought that game when it came out. I had loved, the originals on NES, and that I was so disappointed with. Out of everything for N64, that was the game that I bought with my own money. I brought it home. I was super excited. I'm like, I love Castlevania. Pop it in. It was the biggest piece of shit game.
Castlevania and Castlevania Legacy of Darkness are both nothing compared to Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Doom 64 is not bad.
Doom 64 is not bad, but I guess I'm spoiled because I grew up with the PC version, and I played Doom and Doom 2 on PC, which are, that's what you want to play. But it wasn't bad for a console
You don't
version.
own Conker's Bad Fur Day?
I've played it. I didn't own it though. I think I rented it.
Yeah, you know what's funny about Conker's Bad Fur Day? You think that it's gonna be like this nice like kiddie game,
Oh, and then it has like the all adult jokes
and all the
Yeah.
it's like there's Killer Instinct Gold. Yeah, but it's not. It's really edgy and stuff. I have never played the Kirby games on the system. Did you play Kirby on?
I actually did. So I believe that I rented the Kirby game for the system, and I loved Kirby's Adventure. Still love it. It's one of my favorites. Kirby is, in general, an easy game. Even the NES one, which I said I love. This game is also easy, but I just found it to be... I guess I found it boring is the problem. Where Kirby's Adventure, I have fun playing. I just didn't like the Kirby game. Paperboy, my sister got me Paperboy.
Oh, yeah?
Because I actually liked the NES one to a degree, and I played it, and I think I asked for it, and then I got it as a birthday present, and then I played it, and then the next day I went with her back to KB Toy Store, and we returned it because it was so bad.
Yeah, Perfect Dark's important to mention. Perfect Dark is actually the sequel to GoldenEye. It's the sequel in terms of gameplay, but not theme.
Right.
It's like, imagine if they didn't have the James Bond theme, they had to make the game. It's okay. I don't think it's as good as GoldenEye.
Yeah, I would agree. GoldenEye is probably superior, but good game for the system.
Yeah. Biggest disappointment on the system was Quest 64, because I was like, finally, they're gonna have an RPG for the system. That is awful.
Did you buy it or did you rent it?
Oh my god, I bought it. I bought into it, and it's just no.
How much of it did you play before you gave up on it?
Not very much. No, yeah. I was not happy with it.
Yeah, obviously Superman 64, probably, regarded as the worst game on the system.
You never played Tom and Jerry Fists of Fury? Like, I think that would be, like, right up your alley. I figured you'd have, like, 2 or 3 of those.
You would think... Well, I do like the cartoon games, but you would think that I would have that, but I have the Tom and Jerry game for PlayStation, and it's like a mess. So a lot of times those cartoon games are not that great. Like I have a bunch for the Super Nintendo, and they're not. A lot of them are not very good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh, believe me, I know. I was just.
Yeah.
So there's 9 wrestling games for the system. This was the Attitude Era of WWF. So it's there, and there's WCW versus NWO Revenge, and just World Tour, and WWF Warzone, and No Mercy, and WrestleMania 2000. There's a lot. And this was like the Creator Wrestlers started coming out, and all of those things. So these wrestling games feel more like wrestling games do now than the
because
ones...
they're 3D.
Yeah, and they have the Creator Wrestler and all that. Compared to like the NES and Super Nintendo wrestling games, which
Like Ring King.
Ring King's boxing, but
Was Ring King boxing? Oh yeah, it was. Shit. Never mind.
but yeah, like Saturday Night Slam Masters versus it's like 2 different things. You know what I mean? Like this is different.
So the system also did have some puzzle games on it. There was Tetrasphere, and there was actually Dr. Mario on the N64. So I love the puzzle games, so it's good that the system has some of those.
Yoshi's Story, that game sucks, doesn't it?
I don't know if I played it.
The only time I ever played that game was it was on like a kiosk at Toys R Us.
Okay, you're just saying you tried it out.
I tried it. I'm like, but I was like very much like in the PlayStation camp by then.
I never hear anybody ever talk about it, so it can't be that great.
Yeah, everybody's like, yeah, Yoshi's Story.
Yeah, never.
And Xena Warrior Princess. I'm sure that's a real winner.
Oh my god, we should play that.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
So there was other 007 games. The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah. Look at that. These labels even have like, because you know there's like gray and colored card variations. Yeah. Hollow is your Ocarina of Time the...
Well, that's the Majora's
I mean, it's yours
Mask.
Majora's Mask, the hollow version.
It's just the regular, yeah.
Oh, you're not cool.
Yeah, I guess not. And there are a few Bomberman games for the system. There's Bomberman 64 and Bomberman Hero, and Bomberman The Second Attack. I'm a big fan of the Bomberman games, so I'm going to have to try it.
I want sheets like this for every system, but the only reason you could get away with it is because there's not that many games here. The most valuable game on the system
is Conquer, right?
Is Clay Fighter's Sculptor's Cut, which was a rental exclusive, Blockbuster.
Not Clay Fighter 63 1/3?
No, there's Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, which is the rental exclusive.
Oh, really?
Version of that.
I did not know about that. That's
and that is the most valuable game on the system. This is like, if you want to collect for the system, now's the time. Like, things are getting to be more expensive.
Yeah.
But there's not that many games. And
what do you think the worst is right now? Like NES or Super Nintendo? Probably Super Nintendo.
Yeah, probably. Well, NES, there's so many.
Yeah.
In terms of like raw dollars, the worst is probably TurboGrafx.
If you want to collect for something right now, collect for original Xbox, because nobody is buying those.
Yeah, nobody's doing that. I mean, yeah, but there's... See, the problem with original Xbox is so many of those games were multiplayer and dependent on the servers being up.
Right.
And the servers are down.
They don't
and
exist.
That is another talk about games topic.
We should talk about
We should talk about.
But anyway, so we talked about a lot of games for the system. So overall, the Nintendo 64, I was going to go into this video saying, oh, there was maybe like 10 good games. But now that I think about it, there was actually a lot more than that. Yeah. There's a lot of games here that I would legitimately play. And actually, there you go. I just looked at that. I'm glad that I popped that up.
Pokemon Stadium.
Pokemon Stadium. I like that a lot. Not so much the single player I didn't play, but there was a cool multiplayer in that, which I actually played with Vinny from Vinesauce one time. I used to play that a lot in college, and I loved the multiplayer in that. So there's a lot of good stuff for the Nintendo 64.
I definitely have to say that I came into this video where I thought the N64 was going to get a very mediocre reviews from us, and now I'm seeing that it's pretty decent. It's enough to keep you busy. The N64 Mini, should they ever make one, it's going to be a great product. It's going to be a great thing.
That is one I want to get my hands on. Now, right now, people are already saying, since we did our Super Nintendo video, people are already saying that the SNES Classic is already like hard to get and selling out and stuff.
Pre-orders start this month, so
okay,
look out for that.
So we'll
You
see. We'll see how that goes.
better pre-order that day of.
Yeah, but for the Nintendo 64 Classic, I totally agree. There's probably named 30 good games.
Yeah.
So that is going to be a good collection, considering there's not that many games for the system.